Hello users, and welcome to another episodic installation of Above It All, the show where I tell you what I think, and I speak and behave like a regular person and not a cartoon character on television. So, I've got two articles I would like to read here. One is a very recent one from yesterday about Seth Rogen, and one is more of a general, kind of situational analysis. I did not cover this when it first made headlines because I just wasn't making that many videos at the time, and it fell in the cracks of my video content. But I'm going to cover it now because it's back in the headlines, and I love Seth's response. So, I've got a piece here in Jacobin from Hadastier about why it matters that Seth Rogen spoke out against Israel. So, I'm going to give you this, and I'm going to read the highlighted text. I will link this in the description if you want to read the entire article, and then I will go over to Seth Rogen's response after the fact when people were trying to say that he walked back these comments. So, in 2014, during Israel's deadliest assaults on Gaza, Seth Rogen was among 200 Hollywood entertainers who signed a statement in defense of Israel. But this week, on Maron's podcast, Rogen, a prominent Jewish actor and comedian, said the state of Israel makes no sense to him. "I don't understand," Rogen said. "To me, it just seems like an antiquated thought process. If it's for religious reasons, I don't agree with it because I think religion is silly. If it is truly for the preservation of Jewish people, it makes no sense because, again, you don't keep something you're trying to preserve all in one place, especially when that place has proven to be pretty volatile. I'm trying to keep all these things safe. I'm going to put them in a blender and hope that it's the best place. That will do it. It doesn't make sense to me." He went on to explain, "I also think that as a Jewish person, I was fed a huge amount of lies about Israel my entire life. They never tell you that, oh, by the way, there were people there. They make it seem like it was just sitting there. Oh, the fucking door is open. Ask almost any Jew in America, no matter their opinion on Israel, and they know exactly what Rogen is describing. Whether they went to Hebrew school and learned Israeli folk songs that convey the myth that Jews arrived in a barren land, planted trees, built houses, and made a nation flourish and grow, or they heard the constant refrain in synagogues about the need for a Jewish state to serve as our refuge, or they simply imbued the conventional wisdom from the daily news. The message was clear. To be a Jew, you must support Israel. Yet that one simple, disquieting fact that another people were already living on the land where Israel was established persists. Seth Rogen is right. Israel was established through the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. Zionist militias confiscated land and used terror, assassinations, and massacres. In Deir Yassin, every man, woman, and child in the village was killed in order to create a Jewish state. So, the rest of the article just goes on about how people are coming to terms with this fact. And, a bunch of people were so offended. "Oh, how dare you, good sir," for what Seth Rogen said. And Seth Rogen had a clarifying conversation with someone who then published that Seth Rogen apologized. And then yesterday, Seth Rogen wanted to make sure that he did not apologize. He wanted to make sure that he still agrees with what he said. However, he wanted to clarify what he meant without the tone of humor, because obviously Seth Rogen is a comedian, and therefore, if he's on a podcast as a comedian and he's going to talk about something, he's going to be a little flippant. Duh. No shit. That doesn't change the sentiment of what he said. So here we have the Times of Israel. Seth Rogen says he did not apologize for Israel comments. You love to see it. Seth Rogen on Monday denied apologizing for his comments about Israel, saying the leader of the Jewish agency misrepresented his position, while acknowledging that he should not have spoken jokingly on such a sensitive and nuanced issue. "I did not apologize for what I said. I offered clarity, and I think Isaac Herzog is misrepresenting our conversation. Rogen told Haaretz in a lengthy interview a day after the Jewish Agency said in a Zoom conversation was held over the weekend between Rogen and its chairman, Isaac Herzog, during which Rogen apologized. But the Jewish actor said his comments about Israel were made in jest and that he does not want Jews to believe he thinks the Jewish state should not exist. He also affirmed that he found his childhood education about the country, which he received through Jewish schools and camps, to be problematic. So I'm not going to read the rest of the article because it's just a summary of what we already know. So the thing here is, it is important when prominent Jewish people in America speak out against acts of terrorism. Now, obviously, there's going to be the inevitable person in the comment section that goes like, Muslims are terrorists and they bomb things. When a war occurs, there are usually two sides, if not more. If someone kills your entire family, your grandparents, your parents, and your siblings, it is only natural for you to want to enact some form of revenge. War is a feedback loop. I've used this same expression for police brutality in America and internationally. If someone is killed by police and people protest that someone is killed by police, and instead of fixing the problem, police kill more people for protesting police brutality, that is a feedback loop that just eats into itself, getting larger and larger and larger until it snowballs as a giant problem. Again, if someone came into your house at night and murdered your entire family, would you tell me that you would turn the other cheek and forgive them? Chances are the answer is no. Now again, I am not defending acts of terrorism like a lot of right-wingers and Israel apologists love to say, that whenever Israel as a nation state enacts terroristic policies and acts in an apartheid fashion, that's justified, that's okay. But whenever the opposite would occur, except here's the thing, one has state power, one side has state power and authority, the other is mostly a guerrilla uprising, okay? So if that happens, there is an idiosyncratic battle of power. So again, if the state is killing people, that is a bigger offense to humanity than if the people whose families were massacred, rebelling against them, accidentally kill civilians. That is a thing. Now again, obviously, I denounce all forms of murdering of civilians. However, to say that it is one-sided and to say, oh, Muslims are evil and blah, 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 it's just stupid and racist. And I am not necessarily a Jewish person. A lot of people love to claim that I'm Jewish because of my nose, but I think that's fucking stupid. I was not raised as a Jewish person, therefore I am not Jewish. However, I know a lot of Jewish people. A lot of people I know grew up Jewish, were raised Jewish, and have told me that when they were kids, they were taught that Israel was founded on a magical land. They were told that Israel is the same as being Jewish. If you attack Israel, you are attacking Jewish people all across the globe. That is obviously untrue. Now, again, does that mean that Jewish people shouldn't have gotten some form of a nation state? Honestly, I am not nearly educated on history enough to make that sort of analysis. However, if you want to create a nation state to protect Jewish people after the Holocaust, why would you enact the same crimes against humanity on other people that were enacted on your own people in order to do that? That doesn't make sense at all. It literally is the most mind-boggling thing imaginable. Now, when you add on to the fact that Israel currently has a far-right prime minister, and the government, since I have been politically aware, has been a far-right disaster. Benjamin Netanyahu is one of the biggest and most horrifyingly, accepted authoritarian fascist style leaders in the world. The fact that he is able to enact acts of terrorism, and the ostensibly left-wing party in the United States, the Democratic Party, which in reality is a right-wing war machine, but the fact that Nancy Pelosi tried to create this huge debacle over Ilhan Omar criticizing Israel, that kind of stuff is bizarre. Because again, crimes against humanity, when committed by a state, are far more problematic than crimes against humanity committed by individual acts of people or groups. Okay, now obviously, again, murdering civilians is terrible. But are United States politicians really going to cry and whine about murdering civilians when it's people in Israel, right? Are you really going to have that audacity? When the Iraq war murdered over 1 million civilians? Really? Again, it is so baffling to me that people still to this day, in the year 2020, with the internet at your disposal, are so dead set on defending Israel's government at all costs. Remember when Bernie Sanders criticized Israel and said that he would withhold aid and funding if Israel committed atrocities and crimes against humanity, and there were a bunch of groups that called him an anti-Semite and a self-hating Jew? That shit is preposterous. Y'all have been sold a lie. Israel is not some criticizable government that exists above all land. I'm sorry, if you think that, you are a fucking moron of the highest degree. And again, our culture and media in the United States, hell, look at the UK, where they smeared Jeremy Corbyn as an anti-Semite because he was critical of Israeli policies. Again, to conflate critique of a government does not mean you hate all people of a specific ethnic origin. To criticize Saudi Arabia is not the same as to criticize all Muslim people. If I say the government of Saudi Arabia is corrupt, that does not mean that I am saying every Muslim on the planet is corrupt. And the fact that people think that of Israel and Jewish people is absurd. So again, y'all can read these full articles if you want. This is something that, obviously I am not hugely in on, but obviously the Palestinian people have been completely repressed, oppressed, and assaulted for almost a full century. And for what? For what reason? Again, it doesn't take a genius and a scholar to understand war crimes and crimes against humanity when you see them. I am not the most well-read person on Palestinian history. That doesn't mean that I'm blind to what's happening there. It is a modern-day apartheid state, in the most brutally obvious of terms. And it is disgusting that Democrats in this country of the United States and liberals in this country of the United States still defend them. Why? How can you think Trump is bad and think Netanyahu is good? Tell me. If you are one of those people, please tell me what is going on in your brain, because I, for one, cannot understand it. Thank you for watching, everyone. If y'all want to give me any sort of more historically focused content on Palestine, I would really love it. It's a subject that I've read into a little bit over the last few years. I know a little bit about it, but I'm not well read on it. International politics is something I want to start reading more about. So, I'm going to be commenting on this probably, more often, international politics in general. But yeah, if y'all have any more information about this that you think I should know to arm myself with knowledge, I would appreciate that. And thank you for watching.